Faith. All right, let's go to Mark chapter 4 and we'll look at a story of great faith, someone breaking through into great faith. Sorry, Mark chapter 5. Let's go from verse 24. A large crowd followed and pressed around him, and a woman was there who had been subject to bleeding for 12 years. She had suffered a great deal under the care of many doctors and had spent all she had, yet instead of getting better, she actually grew worse. When she heard about Jesus, she came up behind him in the crowd and touched his cloak, because she thought, if I just touch his clothes, I'll be healed. Immediately her bleeding stopped, and she felt in her body that she was free from her suffering. At once, Jesus realized power had gone out from him. He turned around in the crowd and asked, "Who touched my clothes?" You see the people crowding against you, his disciples answered, and yet you can ask, "Who touched me?" But Jesus kept looking around to see who had done it. Then the woman, knowing what had happened to her, came and fell at his feet, and trembling with fear, told him the whole truth. He said to her, "Daughter, your faith has healed you. Go in peace and be freed from your suffering." It's an amazing story because this woman presses through, grabs the edge of his cloak, and she gets radically healed from something she had for many, many years. And Jesus says this amazing thing, "Who touched me?" And the disciples are like, you're in a crowd, hello, a lot of people bumping you, touching you, but someone's got through the crowd and touched him differently than all the rest. Some may have touched him with curiosity, some may have touched him with interest, some may have just wanted to see who this guy was that was performing miracles, but one lady pressed through the crowd and she touched him differently. She touched him with faith, and Jesus, not even knowing she was really there, power was drawn out of him into her situation to set her free. That's the difference faith can make. So this woman was diseased. She's dying, she's discouraged, she's desperate, and she needs deliverance. So let's look at some things from that. Number one, how did she get her miracle? She got her miracle through faith and perseverance. She inherited what God had for her. So verse 27 and 28 says, she heard the reports about Jesus and came up behind him in the crowd and touched his garment, for she said, if I even touch his garment, I will be made well. She was not supposed to be in the crowd. She was not supposed to be around. And she realized she needed a miracle. Her tenacity pushed her through the crowd to say, I'm going to touch him. And if I can just touch him, something will take place. And then you meet the modern day Christian and you ask them, what do you need? And they say, well, you know, God can heal me if he likes. God can provide for me if he likes. I'll just stand here and we'll see what happens. And then 5 years later, nothing's happened, and they're all disappointed and beat up and burnt out and hate God and hate the church and hate the pastor and hate this and hate that, when actually the responsibility was on them to press into Jesus and actually believe for their faith to be increased to see a breakthrough. You don't get much worse than this lady. You don't get much worse than what she was going through. She had something, she had faith, she believed something would happen in her favor if she could reach Jesus. So through faith and perseverance, she inherits what God has for her. And we know that Hebrews 11 verse 1, the famous verse on faith, says this: now faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not yet seen. That word substance means to support, to stand strong, to have something that's immovable. The word hope means a confident, certain expectation, and the word evidence literally means conviction or the proof of something happening. So you could read Hebrews 11:1 like this: faith is the standing strong, immovable, seizing hold of the thing you are confidently and with certain expectation believing for, the proof of things not yet seen. When God gives you a word, it's for you to stand on that word confidently, immovable, believing and trusting that what He said, He will come and do. And the beautiful thing about that is it takes all the pressure off you, trying to make something happen. You're just standing on what He's already said. But you have to stand and you have to have some tenacity and you have to do it with some faith. You see, church is not McDonald's. It's not roll up at the windows, get 3 prophecies, 2 words of knowledge, an upsized miracle. And then I'd like to collect the little figurines. I haven't got Paul yet, so I can have a little Apostle Paul figurine to put on my dashboard. Some things take years in the making. And you've got to stand and you've got to believe God. And you've got to be immovable. And people will come and shake you. And the devil will come and speak to you and tell you it's not going to happen. But every time it happens, you go back to the word he's given you. And you stand on that word immovable like that lady. And you say, I'm going to get through the crowd. I'm going to press in. I'm going to touch Jesus. And what I've been believing for, I'm going to receive it. Someone said, "Ooh, that sounds like he's preaching word of faith." Well, faith is word of faith. I really get surprised when people say, "Oh, we don't want word of faith or we don't want prosperity." Well, what do you want? Do you want unbelief and poverty? Or would you like faith and prosperity? So if you want poverty, we'll have a line at the end today. And I'm happy to pray for you to receive the gift of poverty. And then if Leo and Christine ever have me back, I don't know if they will, but if they ever have me back, we can come back in a year and see how well you've done with your gift of poverty. How many people you've blessed, how many churches have been planted, how many lives have been changed. You and your unbelief and your poverty. But we like that, aren't we? But then what do you want? The opposite? You've got to believe that God actually wants to bless you and increase you. And it's not for you, it's for his kingdom. Where it goes wrong is people want it for themselves. But if you've got a heart to say, I want it for the kingdom, then God can actually give it to you and bless you. But, we have this great saying, blessed to be a blessing. Well, it implies that you're blessed first. Well, I don't have much. Will you start with what you got? The biblical principle is if you're faithful with little, he will make you faithful and steward over much.